Okay, let's get into this very heavy conversation, and we're hitting that right now. The battle for free trade zone authority in Nigeria is taking a few years in the making. Now it becomes a full-blown one between two regulatory authorities established by different acts of parliament over the last 10 years. The Nigeria's Export Processing Zone Authority, which is NEPZA, with main hub in Lagos, and then the government later set up another one called the Oil and Gas Export Free Trade Zone, or by the acronym OGEVZA, that was in One, River State, predominantly to deal with oil and gas exports. Of course, because that's where you get 90%, 99, almost 100% of Nigeria's in the Niger Delta area. So that's where OGEVZA was an authority by the Act of Parliament. But NEPZA, basically to do shipping, import, export, non-oil and gas, as it were. Then, of course, you remember before the end of last administration, Ladol got a marching order to move its operations, suspend multi-billion-dollar investments within the NEPZA zone in Lagos and move it to One in River State. So that contention it's not yet over. Let's bring in Yusuf Abdullahi, who is the chairman of Snake Island Integrated Free Zone, to the studio to talk to us on this and raise the curtain, as it were. It's good to have you here, Mr. Abdullahi.
Thank you so much, Mr.
You spent many of your years with the government, various committees and agencies, presidential committee, tracking this issue of free trade zones. How did we get into this? Let's benefit from your experience. How did we get into this very messy situation, as it were?
That is very good. That is a very good question. Let us start asking you and Nigerians if you've ever been to Dubai. When you see Dubai, Dubai was just a fishing village before 1987. In 1987, the free zone at Jebel Ali was set up. And as of today, you've seen how the free zone concept had transformed a small village into a mega city. The Nigerian Export Processing Zone started in 1992. 5 years difference, but you can see where we are. We're still struggling with the structuring of the free zones in Nigeria. In 2000, we started the restructuring of the free zones in Nigeria. We started with changing the concept from export processing zones to free trade zones, because we discovered that the export processing zone is inhibited to the progress of free zones in Nigeria. The federal government also directed that there should be only one regulatory, as it is all over the world. Have a single regulatory authority, both for other free zones, including oil and gas. The process started in 2000 by the directive of the Federal Executive Council to Minister of Justice to set up the instrument.
That was under the Obasanjo's administration?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Then in 2006, finally before President Obasanjo left the seat of government, an implementary letter was sent to Federal Minister of Commerce at that time for the implementation of the Single Free Zone Authority. And then the bill was also drafted. That is the 2006 Federal Executive Council Nigerian Free Zone Authorities.
Okay, just very quickly there. The NEPZA was set up in 1992,
yes.
OGEVZA in 1996, and you're taking us forward to when President Obasanjo, before he left office,
yes.
and saying there should be a single free trade zone authority in Nigeria to preside over these two.
Yes.
What has happened to President Obasanjo's directive? It hasn't been implemented till date, isn't it?
The new government came in 2007. And since the new government came in, nothing happened. Only OGEVZA that have been proactive in trying to push for the amendment of its law. But it started with administrative fiat through Ministry of Transport by saying that oil and gas cargo should only go to Oni.
In River State.
In River State, in Warri, and also Calabar. But there was a standing policy, federal government policy, approved by President Obasanjo in 2006, that importers of oil and gas cargo should feel free to choose their port of preference.
In landing those products?
In landing those products. It makes more sense.
So you can choose to discharge in Lagos?
Exactly.
In Warri?
In Cocoa?
In Cocoa Port. You're referring to the 7-page bill.
Yes.
That is called a bill for an act to amend the Oil and Gas Exports Free Zone Authority, which was sponsored by one Senator Ibrahim Gabriel. That's the one you're talking about.
That is the one I'm talking about.
Okay.
This bill is the same bill that was submitted in 2014. It passed through the Senate, but the stakeholders quickly now went to court to stop it and stop even the president from accessing to it.
That's President
Jonathan.
Goodluck Jonathan administration.
Yes. And if you look at the bill, those administrative fears that they couldn't achieve through Ministry of Transport, that is what is inside that bill. That all oil and gas cargoes should only go to One, Warri, and Calabar.
Your Snake Island integrated free zone is under NEBSA.
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, NEBSA had about 34
free zones.
Yes. Across Nigeria. The one in One, which is Ogebza, which is the oil and gas export free trade zone, had its own free zone, isn't it?
Yes.
But basically for oil and gas, isn't it?
And only to operate in One. That is what the law says.
To operate only in One and only not extended to Lagos.
To anywhere.
Or Kano.
To anywhere. They have no authority by that law.
Now, so what does this bill now tend to achieve? Who's putting this bill forward?
This bill, again, is trying to overreach the power given to it by the Principal Act.
That is the act that set it up in 1996.
Exactly. This bill is now trying to say, okay, that Warri that we have declared illegally, by this bill, we are going to change it into act. So Warri, Calabar, and Apapa, they have extended it to Apapa, that they are going to be a free zone by law.
Was this bill the precursor of the problem of the Ladol directive under the Jonathan administration?
Now, exactly. Let me go back. In 2006, when Ladol was declared a free zone, in 2005, when Snake Island was declared a free zone.
And that's where Niger Dock is, isn't it?
That's where Niger Dock is. Then the crisis started. An entity in One found out that there is a competition now. So to soften that competition, they tried to use administrative fiat, but they couldn't do it during Obasanjo's era, when Obasanjo said oil and gas cargo should go to anywhere within the country of preference. When Eradua came, they also tried the administrative fiat. Operational guideline was issued by the Ministry of Transport. The stakeholders complained to the presidency. The presidency investigated and found out that that was true. So the minister was now forced to publish a public notice that importers of oil and gas cargo are free to choose their port of preference.
Reinstating the Obasanjo's
position.
And that is under the late Yaradu's administration.
Exactly. They now moved to the custom, the Nigerian Custom Services. Nigerian Custom Services issue a lengthy letter to Nigerian Export Processing Zone, but they realized that they are providing services, maritime services for import to the free zone and others. So in paragraph 7, the custom now was very clever. They now stated that cargoes going to the free zone must first go to custom port and then escorted to the free zone. They did not mention One, Warri, or Calabar. Then,
please go ahead, because I want to ask a question there, because if you start moving cargoes and vessels like that, there's costs involved, isn't it?
Exactly. So, we the stakeholders, those of us that are within the custom ports in Lagos, would prefer that the custom direct our ships, our cargo straight to save cost of doing business in Nigeria, to improve businesses in Nigeria.
So under the current circumstance, in practice, it means you can have a bit of logistics round tripping.
Yes,
that
is correct.
And it costs more. Yes, you move first to One, for example, or Warri before you come to Lagos.
That is what this bill is trying to do.
That's what this document.
Exactly.
The committee that is currently sitting on this is that of, in the Senate, is that of a distinguished Fatima Raji Rasaki, isn't it? She's the chairman of the Trade and Investment Committee pursuing this bill. There are sources that this bill is going to be passed, whether, whatever happens, this is going to pass through.
Well,
but this is going to create a single authority, isn't it?
No. What we are begging, so to say, the Senate, is to harmonize the three bills. The NEBSA bill that is before them, the OGEBSA bill that is before them, then the federal, the executive bill of 2006 that proposed single authority. Let them harmonize for the sake of Nigeria, harmonize the three, at least to bring sanity into the free zone.
I'm going to ask you one simple question, but I'm sure you're going to provide a lengthy answer. What goes on at the free trade zone in Lagos, for example, where you have Niger Dock? What exactly is going on there? It's called Snake Island. I haven't been there, but I know there was Niger Dock there, building ships and things in those days. People say there are no snakes there. It's just because the island looks like snake, but again, so that folks don't get scared. When they go there, they say there's a lot of snakes on the Snake Island.
It is an integrated free zone. And there's no oil and gas export in that zone. We fabricate, we build ships, we provide logistics services. When you go there and see the kind of products coming out from Snake Island, it doesn't happen in One. When you go to One, it's only merchandising of oil and gas equipment, pipes and the rest of them. But when you come to Lado and also Snake Island, it's manufacturing. You find Nigerians manufacturing high-class, top-class equipment. That's why you find it in Niger Dock. And there's also logistics services where in the zone.
A very interesting conversation, and I'm not sure we can finish everything here today, but we thank you very much for coming on the program. Yusuf Abdullahi, who is the chairman of the Snake Island Integrated Free Zone. Of course, that battle is still on as far as this bill is concerned. We're kicking off the conversation, and we're going to get all parties to this to speak to Channels Television Business Morning. But that's the battle for the Free Zones Authority. We're going back in time to try unravel this and sort it out in the interest of the country's economy. Let's come back to the market. As usual, we'll return to the marketplace where Main Street meet Market Street. We'll be back after this.